This is the story of Airhead, Brickhead, and Knucklehead going to the movies. Now, this is the first time that any of them have ever gone to a movie, so it's a new experience. And Knucklehead is amazed by actually the story in the movie. And the movie is all about truth. And in fact, the name of the movie is The Diamond of Truth. And somehow there's this metaphor that truth is this tangible, precious, durable thing. And Knucklehead, excuse me, after the movie, tells his friends that he was really moved by the story and the message in the movie. Now, Airhead had looked up and seen the light up above his head, the light coming from the projector. And he told his friends after the movie that he was very excited that all of the action on the screen, all those colors and shapes and motions and everything, just came from this one sort of colorless, generic, energetic commodity, this light. So that's what he was fascinated by. Now, Brickhead was fascinated by the screen. He, like Airhead, was fascinated by one uniform object that was somehow responsible for all of the colors and shapes and movements that came out in the movie. So now Brickhead was not able, really, as you say, you have to connect, right? This person has to be enthusiastic about saying something, and the other person has to be receptive about hearing it. Well, Brickhead was not able to connect. He was not able to connect with Knucklehead because to Knucklehead, it just seemed strange, all this talk about a screen, because he'd been fascinated with the images on the screen. He really hadn't noticed the screen. So to him, it just seemed strange. On the other hand, and I think maybe even more relevant in a way, is that Airhead was not able to quite enjoy Brickhead's enthusiasm because he felt that they were talking about the same thing. As soon as Brickhead said, yes, there's that one uniform thing, right away Airhead assumed that he was talking about the light that had fascinated him. But he wasn't. He was talking about the screen. But he couldn't find a way to distinguish the one element he was talking about, that is the screen, from the one element Airhead was talking about, that is the light. And so he failed to connect with Airhead.
They never connected, right?
He never connected.
So because they were thinking that that's it, that's what he's talking about, the thing I'm focusing on. There's a one thing, and it's kind of monochromatic and bright, and the other one is... And that's what we're always doing with each other, right? I mean, we're thinking, like, I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
We're not really approaching each other with a clean slate. We're approaching each other saying, yeah, I know that, I knew that, I know that, and then so we're thinking we're agreeing, but somehow, where's that point where we go down to the null point, where we can really build together?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's it.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. You know, how do you overcome that? It may be a general a situation where people don't communicate as well as they'd like to. But as usual, I'm thinking of myself. I'm thinking of how frustrated it is for me to try to talk about so-called spirituality, because I have a different take on it. But all my New Age friends assume that I'm saying the same thing.
The same thing that they believe.
Yes,
right?
and the same thing that I used to be so fascinated with. You know, I used to be fascinated with, well, first the movie on the screen and then the light. Of course, the movie is the drama of life.
It's just conventional wisdom or conventional life, right?
Yes, and I like to call that Model 3. I'll tell you right now, Richard, I'm a model maker.
Right.
And, you know, forgive me, but yeah, conventional regular life is kind of like language 3, Model 3, point of view number 3. And then that approach where we have noticed the subtle art and the subtle science of life, you know, the subtleties of healing and the subtleties of self-inquiry, that level which is mystical, spiritual, visionary, philosophical, that level which is below the surface, I would call that Model 2, language 2. And that is, for most people, I think, a fascination with consciousness. And in my humble opinion, there is no such thing as consciousness. If there is, of course, we can use words any way we want. If we say that there is, then I would say that consciousness is the first illusion and really the only illusion. So then,
but let's just lay out the models and
sure,
not say whether they exist
okay,
or not, because probably Model 3 doesn't exist either.
yes, and you're right. Okay, so here's the models, and I'd also like to suggest a special use of the words existence and reality. Okay, so Model 3 is regular life, language 3, Model 3. Model 2 is the subtleties of life. Model 1...
Some of Model 2 is experiential, right? Which
yes.
might just not mean any more real or less real, or but it just somehow people differentiate it from the conventional life because, oh, I'm having a direct experience. And whatever that means, let's just say there's something about it that convinces people to go from Model 1 to Model 2. Now, why is it somehow in a hierarchy for those people that they'll shift away from Model 3 to go to Model 2? Why do they do that?
Well, it has its own appeal. You know, it's wonderful. It's celestial. It's divine. It's enhanced. You know,
it's enhanced. It's an
spiritual.
Enhanced Model 3, right?
Yes, it is. It's a glorified. You know, and I'm not saying that it's better than Model 3 or that it's worse than Model 1. I'm just saying that there might be these different points of view. And so point of view number 1 is really the bottom line. It's really, you know, it's really...
So far, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Anything we can say in words is suspect. But, you know, our intention is that Model 1 is reserved for the bottom line, for the bedrock, for the screen, for what is truly solid.